I'm Chloe. So just a little bit about myself before I get started into telling you all my adventures. I'm 22 years old and I just recently graduated with a degree in ecotourism and outdoor leadership, where that has given me lots of opportunities to adventure on the water and off the water. I'm a sea kayaking guide when I'm not sailing, and in the wintertime I love skiing downhill and crosshill. So how I got involved with tall ships is in 2019, I actually just stumbled across a job opening on the Bluenose. So I applied on a whim and I got the job. And that's where my sailing career really in tall ships took off. I sailed a little bit in my younger years with the Picton, where I'm from, my hometown, in their sailing school. Unfortunately, the year after I joined, the funding was cut and I was no longer able to sail with them. So in 2019, when I joined, I had no real previous experience. And that's when I learned everything that I know today with the Bluenose. So it's not just all sailing. When you join the Bluenose, we get to uprig and downrig the ship. So you learn a lot more than just sail handling and navigation skills. You learn a whole lot of things about the ship itself. So like the wood and all the maintenance that goes into the ship. And to work on the Bluenose, it is a job. So you have to be 19 years or older. And that's all you need is to be 19 years or older. So yeah. So some of the cool opportunities that I got to experience while being on the Bluenose is in 2019, we got to go to the Great Lakes. So, and I didn't know a whole lot about the Great Lakes. So we set sail in June and we made it there about 2 weeks after. We had to go through a bunch of locks in the Welland Canal. And if you don't know what those are, I didn't either until I got there. They're basically water elevators. So you go into this big open space and there's 100-foot walls, and then they shut the doors behind you and then it fills up with water. And we did this about 11 or 12 times in order to actually get to the Great Lakes. And I thought that was a very cool experience that I probably would not have gotten anywhere else if I didn't join in 2019. It was definitely a scary experience and a very unique in the sense that you didn't really know a whole lot of your surrounding areas. And it was very cool. And one day, actually, when we started going through the Welland Canal, it's 8 locks, one right after the other. And we got there early in the morning and we had to wait all day because we didn't know when we were going to go through the Welland Canal, which takes about 10 hours. So we waited all day and Captain Watson told us that we could all go to bed. And about 15 minutes later, we got a call that we had to go through the Welland Canal. So we were up as a crew for about 25 hours altogether. And we were very, very tired afterwards. But it was something that probably happens once in a lifetime. And it was a very cool experience. And I'm super glad I got to, although it was very, very hard and challenging, that I got to experience that. Some other cool experiences that I got to experience on the Great Lakes is the weather systems. I think that a lot of the experience on the lakes is a lot different than on the ocean. And so we had a lot of squalls, which I wasn't really used to living on the coast. We have little squalls, but we don't really think about them too much. But on the Great Lakes, they're a lot more intense than I thought they would be, which was really cool. We also were there for the tall ship festivals, so we got to interact with a lot of different tall ships as well. For example, the Picton Castle was with us, the Dennis Sullivan, and the Pride of Baltimore. And the farthest traveling ship was all the way from Spain, and that they were called the Santa Maria. So they traveled all the way from Spain to come to the Great Lakes. So that was really cool. And then we also got to take down our topmast a lot. So I'm going to show you a picture here. I'm just gonna. So here I have a picture of our top sail. So this sail right here is the fisherman's sail, and then this is our foresail right here, and our topmasts are these guys right here, and they can actually be lowered and raised, and it's something that we don't do a whole lot, just when we have to go under small bridges, and we had to do that 8 times. So it was a challenge that our crew has never really faced before doing. Doing that procedure takes all day to lower or to raise the topmast. So that was a really cool experience, learning how to deal with that. So we also, it's not always super exciting things on the Bluenose per se. We get to, I personally enjoy the moments that are super calm and watching maybe just the sunrise or the sunset on the water. Although when we get really sailing, it's really thrilling and exciting. I also really value the moments where it's really peaceful on the water. And some of those moments come from all over the place. This past summer, we got to travel all around Nova Scotia, and there are parts of my home province that I've never seen before. For example, the Bay of Fundy, they have some of the world's largest tides, and I've never got to really experience that place before. They have a lot of wildlife, so we got to see some whales, which I've never been whale watching, so that was really cool. And as well as at Peggy's Cove, I have a picture here of Peggy's Cove as well. And this is one of the most photographed lighthouses in Canada, right here. So my friend actually took this picture, and actually, like right along here in this water, we had 2 leatherback turtles come up, and which was a really cool, because I've never seen leatherback turtles before in wildlife, in their own habitat, which was pretty cool. Here I have a picture of us sailing in the Bay of Fundy. So we had a really good wind day, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and we got to sail like this for about 6 hours, which was really awesome for us, because we don't always get to really sail, because sometimes we have passengers on our ship, and sailing at that type of an angle could be very dangerous. So we don't always sail like that. So those are just some of my stories and experiences that I've had the pleasure of having along with a lot of my crewmates. And although Bluenose is not necessarily a sail training vessel, once you reach the age of 19, you don't need any prior experience to join the Bluenose, and I would highly recommend applying once you turn 19.
Thanks so much, Chloe. That was awesome. It sounds really, really amazing, and I hope some people are encouraged to apply if, when they're old enough. If you have any questions for Chloe, you can ask them at the end, or you can post them in the chat. So if you go to the top right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see a white bar, and there's a chat function. Daniel, do you want to introduce our next speaker?
So our next presenter is Eloise. So we would like to welcome Eloise to the stage.
So, hi everyone. My name is Eloise Guérin. I'm a 21-year-old student at Concordia studying kinesiology. And I was lucky enough to participate in Class Afloat on the Golden Leo tall ship last year. And so a little bit about me before I get into that. What attracted me most to Class Afloat and the year on board the tall ship was that ever since I was little, I loved to travel. That was like my main goal, was to be able to see as many places as I could, learn as many things from different cultures as I could, and I just loved the aspect of traveling and getting to know other people, getting to see sights that you could only dream of seeing, and all that stuff. And so I found out about Class Afloat back in 2014, I believe. It was during the summer, and I was watching TV with my mom, as you do, and there was this TV show that came on that was called Schools Unlike the Others. And my mom was like, "Oh, you should come see this. It's about like a pirate ship kind of thing. I don't know, you might like it." And I was like, "Okay." And they were presenting Class Afloat. And Class Afloat was a tall ship program, tall ship learning program where students from, I believe it's high school up until the first year of university have the opportunity to be able to learn how to sail, study, and travel the world at the same time. And when I learned about that, I looked at my mom right away and I said, "I'm gonna do that." She looked at me, she was like, "Yeah, sure, okay." She thought I was crazy. And every year since then, I brought it up, I think, 5, 6 times. And every year she said, "Yeah, later. You'll do it later. It's fine. It's okay. It'll go away." And finally, I reached the end of high school, and I told my mother, I was like, "I'm applying. This is the last year I can possibly apply. I'm gonna apply." So she said yes to 1 semester, and when I sent in my application, I checked in full year. And then I got accepted, and that's when my Class Afloat journey started and my tall ship experience started. So that started in September 2019 in Amsterdam. We got onto the tall ship for the first time. Mind you, I had no sailing experience whatsoever. All I knew is I love to travel and I love the ocean. That was all it took for me to be able to say yes to like what I think is the best experience of my life. And we got to sail from Amsterdam all the way down to Senegal, do the Atlantic crossing, go to Brazil, and then come back up to North America in Mexico, where unfortunately the year got cut short because of COVID. So we had to go back home. But I still think it was one of the best experiences of my life. And one of the best days I think that I've had on board the ship was when we finished the Atlantic crossing. The first port of call that we had was Fernando de Noronha, which is a small island off the coast of Brazil, which about I believe it's 400 visitors are allowed per day, and that's it, including people that live there. So it's very, very, very secluded. Most of the island is considered a natural reserve, so not a lot of people get to visit it or experience it in their lifetime. And we were lucky enough to be able to anchor there and be able to visit just these beautiful sights that were offered to us. And the last day that we had on Fernando, me and a couple of my friends decided to go scuba diving. So the morning of, we woke up at like 4 a.m. It was just pouring rain, and we thought it was going to get canceled. But fortunately enough, it wasn't. So we got to scuba dive up until midday. Then I went back to the ship, and I decided to get a change of clothes and show all these amazing pictures that I took of like barracudas, sharks, tons of fishes, turtles, and just the wonderful maritime life that I got to see while scuba diving. And one of the ABs, Tristan, asked me if I wanted to help him tender people to the boat and off the shore. And I said, "Yeah, sure, why not? Like, I'll do it." And for those of you who don't know, tendering is when the boat is at anchor. We take this little inflatable boat that can carry about like 20 to 15 people to shore, get them, and then bring the people back to the ship. So I was helping him anchor a little boat that we call Black Betty on the beach and back to the ship. We did that for like about 4 hours, and it was just, we had a blast. Like, we just talked and like got to see people and talk to them about their day and whatever. It was just really nice. And then the last tender that we did, the captain informed us that there was a squall coming in and we had to get the ship ready ASAP. So most of the crew dropped everything they were doing, decided to get the ship ready. And a couple of the students decided to help. And I was one of those students. And so me and most of the crew were working outside in the pouring rain, just trying to get the ship ready so that we don't get caught in this squall. And that's when I realized that it was just like the best day possible, because I woke up this morning, I was like, I'm gonna just go scuba diving, have a nice day, worked a little bit on the ship, and it was just every day was like a new adventure. And that's what I loved about Class Afloat. I got to see so many people, so many different cultures. I got to go to Morocco and experience the desert, which I only thought possible was in books. I've only read about it. I got to go aloft often and watch the sunrise or watch the sunset. I was lucky enough to go out onto the bowsprit and just see dolphins jumping on the horizon. And it was just absolutely amazing. And on the ship, you build this family, like all 60 crew members and students, you just become one family, like united, because you're basically on this ship fighting against Mother Nature to try to get to where you want to go and to be able to experience all these new countries and cultures and everything. And you just, you get a second family on board the ship. And that's what I believe, that's why Class Afloat and the tall ship Golden Leo was like a second home to me. And I would recommend to everybody to do it, because not only do you get a second family out of it, you get to experience amazing things, even though some of them might be routine, like doing your galley day, working in the kitchen, or like just maintaining the boat. It's all worth it in the end, because you get to work with everybody, build your own family, and you just get to like live these amazing experiences. And yeah.
Thank you so much. That was sounds like you had really great experiences and was really cool. Um, Thank you. So I guess now our next presenter is going to be Letitia. So we'll give the role to her. And please, guys, if you have any questions for any of our presenters, do put them in the chat. They have lots of experience and be more than happy to answer them.
Okay. Hi. My name's Letitia. I'm from Saltspring Island, BC. It's a little island just off the west coast. Yeah, I love sailing, kayaking, hiking, but mostly what I do is sailing. And I started 10 years ago. My grandma signed me up for a trip on the Pacific Grace, which is with SALT, so Sail and Life Training Society in Victoria. And it was a birthday present to me. And she's like, okay, it's $2,400. I want you to pay half of it. And you're going to go on a boat for 10 days during Canada Day. Have fun. And so a little 11-year-old me was like, you want me to give you $1,100 to go spend Canada Day with people I don't know? Like, great. I was not impressed. I thought it was a terrible gift. But then I went on it, and it was actually like the best experience of my life. Met so many great people, still in contact with most of the people that I sailed with 10 years ago. And you've just formed like a crazy community on board. Super special. So after that first year, I've done 13 trips with Salts in total, both as trainee and volunteer. We sailed up to Alaska and Haida Gwaii. I did 22-day trips on the Pacific Grace, and then a 12-day trip up to Alaska with the Pacific Grace. And that was really cool. You just get to see so many great places in the world that you can only get to by boat, and that lots of people never get to see in their life. And it's getting to do that with new people that you don't know, building that bond and experiencing it all together and struggling and learning all together is just the craziest thing in the world. And it's exhausting and difficult, but it's so worth it, and it's the best thing I've ever done. So after Salts, I decided to go try traveling internationally. So I signed up for JST, Jubilee Sailing Trust, and that's a sail training program based out of the UK. And it's for people of all abilities and disabilities, on all ages. So the youngest person was 16, the eldest person was 89 years old. And we had people in wheelchairs, people that are visually impaired, and all different abilities. And so that was really cool to see all these different people involved and doing the exact same thing. And it was really empowering to see people who think that they would never be able to do something like this actually getting to do this and like living their dream, and people who have come back and come back and come back just loving it and feeling so inspired and everything by them. So that was cool. We went from Gibraltar to Madeira and then down to Gran Canaria and there. And then after that, I got a job on Class Afloat. That was my first paid job to be on a ship. And I got on as cook's mate. And that was ridiculous. It was really fun. Cooking is really hard when you're cooking for 80 people on a boat, especially 60 of them being really picky teenagers. But it was a great experience overall. Learned a lot from all the students, and it was really special to be a part of their crew and to see them all the first day coming on the ship, super nervous, super scared. For most of them, the first time being away from their parents for this long, for up to 5 to 9 months, and just not knowing anybody, seeing them all nervous, it was super exciting. And then getting to watch them form a big family and get all comfortable with each other and just watching them grow as individuals, it was the best thing in the world. So blessed to be a part of that. And one of my highlights there was one day we were coming out of the Mediterranean. We were just about to get into Spain, and there was a huge thunder and lightning storm. And so the sky was just purple forever, and it was just purple, and it was super choppy, and it was just gorgeous, and you felt so little in the world. We think that as humans we're like running the world and we're in charge and we're on top of it, but really, like, we're just tiny. We mean nothing. The ocean could take us down like that. And so just being like made smaller by that is something I will hold like very close to me forever. That was very special. And so, yeah, we sailed. I was on for 5 months. And so we sailed from Amsterdam, and then I got off in Barbados. And yeah, after that, this summer, I got to go on Picton Castle and do the Picton Castle Bosun School. And Bosun Salts likes to call the bosun the lover of the ship. So they're taking care of the ship all the time. The bosun is the person responsible for all the woodwork and all the maintenance, anything that's not electrical. So just putting all the love and care into the ship that they can. So I loved that, being called the lover of the ship. And so we got to learn rigging maintenance. We focused mostly on small boats. So we took a bunch of really broken small boats and fixed them and made them really nice and beautiful, learned how to handle them. And yeah, and then we reefed and caulked the whole deck. So on a wooden deck, there's the planks, and then there's this gooey stuff that goes in the middle. So we got to hit it with a hammer and take all the stuff out of the middle and then re-put it in. And so that was cool. It's really hard to do, to get those lines looking straight and actually looking pretty. We destroyed the deck. It looks terrible, but someday someone will do it again and it'll look good. But it's really good experience to learn. If you want to maybe get into the marine industry and working on deck, I definitely suggest that as a program. They do it every couple of years. It's usually a 3-month program, and I 10 out of 10 would recommend that for anybody. And after that, I got to do 6 weeks on the Bluenose to finish off the season. And the Bluenose is so cool. It was really special this year because there wasn't any groups coming on board because of COVID. So it was really nice to get to know everybody who has been sailing on it for the season and see places in Nova Scotia that I'd never been to before. And getting to downrig the ship, so taking everything off of it. Learned a lot of hard work. Really good people. Would definitely recommend applying to work there if you ever are interested in a maritime career. That's a really good place to start, I think. Yeah, I always go back to tall ship sailing, and I love it. I want my entire life to be dedicated to it because I think the places that we go are amazing, and there's so much traveling and so much to see, and that's beautiful. But I think the biggest thing for me is the community on board and seeing the growth within people. On Salts, I've seen people come back year after year and just seeing how they grow within a year and just seeing those little changes in their life and how much you can have an impact in their lives is just amazing. When you're on the ship, you really come out of your shell, you get to be yourself, and there's no hiding it. There's no hiding who you are. You can't fake being something 24 hours a day for 5 months when you're living with 80 people. There's no way. So it's a great way to come out of your shell, find confidence within yourself, learn how to live in community, and yeah, it's really special.
Thanks, Letitia. I've never sailed before, and now from all of you, I really want to go sailing. Does anybody have any questions for our presenters? You can unmute yourselves, or if you'd be more comfortable posting in the chat, you can do that as well.
How was the process of applying for your job with Class Afloat? So I applied for Class Afloat for a job in 2017. I did not get on. And then 2019, the 2018-2019 school year, they emailed me asking if I would fill in for the last 9 weeks of the semester. I couldn't do it, so they hired somebody else. And then they emailed me back asking if I would do the following year. But the application process was really easy. They have a form you fill out online. You send in your cover letter, your resume. And the people who work for Class Afloat, it would be Bronwyn that you would probably be talking to if you would apply for a maritime crew. Super sweet lady. She's also the hiring lady for Picton Castle. Really kind, really easy to talk to, really fun to get along with. And yeah, it's just really, it's professional, but like unprofessional. They're really good community, really sweet people, and you don't feel lots of pressure with them.
Another question we have is from Jen, and it's what place was your favorite for all 3 of you to visit? You guys visited some pretty cool places. So.
One of my absolutely favorite places that I got to travel was the Thousand Islands. And I'll be completely honest, I can't exactly remember exactly where it is, but it's in the Great Lakes. And it's a river system. And it's in the back. It's basically in people's backyards. So on one side is Canada, and on the other side is America. And there's thousands of islands in this river system. And some of them have great, big, beautiful houses, and some of them even have castles. So we were sailing through there at sunset, and it was absolutely stunning. And I didn't even know this place existed. So I thought it was just drop dead gorgeous. And it was a really cool experience because everyone was out on their back porches waving to us. And it was just a really bizarre feeling because we're in their backyard and just sailing through. And it was a really cool experience overall. And then later that night, the sky was just super clear. So then we got to learn about astrology from the captain. So it's just a really good experience all around in the Thousand Islands. So that was probably my favorite place I've traveled to.
So I think that the best place that I've traveled to is called San Blas in Panama. It's just this archipelago of like small islands that are about no longer than like 5 kilometers, I think. They're like really, really small. And there's these indigenous people to Panama that live there. And it was just awesome. We got to sail like between the couple of islands, and it looks like when you sail through them, you just see one pop up there, one that's over there. Some are inhabited, some are fully like it's like the main island, and we got to experience like part of the local culture. And everybody was just so welcoming. Like they were like, "Oh my God, come play with my kids! Like, let's go play soccer. Let's go play basketball." They even took us on like their sailing boats, they had like places for like 3 people, 1 sail, and yeah, we got to just experience a bunch of different things, and it's the most beautiful place I've seen. Like the water is like turquoise, the beaches, they're like just white sand. It's absolutely like a dream.
My favorite place is up in Haida, which is up in northern BC. It's a little island just off the coast. Haida, there's not a lot of people there, and they don't encourage a lot of tourism, but half of the island is a reserve, so it's Guayhanas National Park. And so there's the very southern point is called Cape St. James. This is the view from Cape St. James, and it's just this little bit of mountains. There used to be a little lighthouse there, and a helicopter used to be able to land there, and there was a little tiny home. It's very hard to get to. You have to hike through blackberry bushes to get up there, but that's one of my favorite places.
Awesome.
Haida is like the best place in the world.
We've got a couple more questions. So one is for you, Letitia. It's from Sydney, and she asks, is applying for jobs different than applying to be a student on Class Afloat? And where can you apply? Is it on their website?
Yeah. So applying for a job, there is a part, I believe, in under the Meet the Crew or Apply to be Crew. There is a section for that. And that's fairly easy. There's lots of instructions in that part. And applying as a student, I believe that's online too. I think Eloise could probably tell you more about that one. But applying for a crew job online is pretty easy. There is a section for it.
So applying for students on Class Afloat is about the same thing. There's a form to fill out online. You do need a little bit more documents. You need to do a swim test. You need to get a medical form filled out. You need a couple of reference letters. You need a cover letter. You need to do an interview to make sure that like you're suited for like tall ship life, because it's not for everybody. And you need to also write a letter of intent. And yeah, I think that's it. So once you send all those documents in, they'll call you up for an interview. And then once that interview is done, then you should get a response from, I believe, it's Megan McLeod.
We have a question from Maya, who asks, how old were each of you when you first sailed on tall ships?
I was 21 when I started sailing on tall ships with the Bluenose. However, I got to sail on the Bluenose as a kid because they do day sails. So I've got to do a couple day sails with them before that. But other than that, I was 21 when I really got to really sail on tall ships.
So my year with Class Afloat, I was 19 at the beginning of the year, and then halfway through I turned 20. So yeah, that's it. That's all. I did one tall ship.
I started sailing on tall ships when I was 12.
Is 12 like the minimum age requirement for most?
Most places are about 13. If you're turning 13 after the application, before your trip, they'll let you on board, kind of thing. But usually 13 is the youngest.
Okay. So we have another question from Henrique. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. So he says, I applied for Class Afloat 2021, 2022, but I will be 16 when I do it. Is it too soon?
It depends for certain people. Like my year, the youngest person that was there, his name was Paul, and I think he was 15, turning 16. But if you're talking age-wise, it depends on your academic year. So it's like I think it's grade 11, grade 12. Those are like the minimum years. Yeah, but if you're ready to do tall ship, then I would suggest apply and see what happens.
Another question for Letitia is, what program did you do with JST?
I did I think it's called the Youth Leadership at Sea. So I just did a 12-day. It was very, very last minute. I got accepted onto JST the day it was leaving. I was in Gibraltar for 5 days before they even accepted me. It was very, very last minute. I didn't even have a passport. I was going in between jobs to go get my passport. But I applied for the I think it's Youth Leadership at Sea. and it was from Gibraltar to Madeira and then Madeira to Las Palmas. And so that one you just like a regular trainee, you participate in everything, but this one gives you a little bit more leadership. They give you a little booklet and you take notes and you do a little bit of studying and you have to learn the lines, and then eventually they'll let you lead everything. And then they will give you a bit of a review at the end. And then with that, they will send you an email or a letter saying like, hey, you did great. Like, you've learned a lot and we would love it if you would apply to volunteer. And then they'll give you positions that you can apply for to volunteer.
I have a question. I know, Eloise, you said that there's no real typical day on a tall ship, but what, if you could sort of generalize, what is sort of a day-to-day like experience? Like what time do you get up? What time do you go to bed? That kind of stuff.
So it depends for everybody, but breakfast is served at 7:30 every morning. Then we have a daily meeting called Colors at 8. So everybody's on the foredeck, and we get told like what academic day it is, whose laundry day it is, which is pretty important, who works galley that day, and what like we're expecting to happen during the day, like if there's any like special sailing maneuvers, all that stuff. Then once Colors is done, we have cleaning stations from 8 to 9. Then after that, at 9, classes start. So depending on your schedule, you have classes at different times. Everybody gets one free block. So like you have about an hour and a half free during your day. You get lunch is served, I believe it was at 12. And then once the day is done, oh yeah, also during one of your days, you're assigned to like a day watch. So if for example, if it's day 1, it starts with like block A, and then it goes down B, C, D, E. And if you're like day watch A, then you start your day with watch. So you go and you do maintenance, or you do the sail maneuvers that need to be done for that time. Or if it's your galley day, you go down to galley. And yeah, and so after that, after your like academic / watch is done for the day, it's dinner time at 6:30, 6. And then it's free time unless you're on watch. And then night watches start at 8 p.m. and then they go on up until the next morning. So if you're on night watch schedule from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., then some people decide to go to bed early and then wake up at like 1:30, 1:45. Or what some others did, which I don't suggest it, is you stay awake up until 2, work from 2 to 4, and then you go to bed from like 4:30 to like 7:30. And yeah, but don't do that. Go to bed. Sleep as much as you can.
A daily life on the Bluenose is vastly different, and depending on what stage we are with the Bluenose. So during uprig and downrig, we have 8, sometimes 12, 13-hour days of work. So we have breakfast at 7:30. We're on deck at 8. We have a few breaks throughout the day. And then we're usually super tired at the end of the day and just usually hang out with one another and repeat that process for a couple months. And when we're sailing and we're underway, we have 4 hours on, 8 hours off. And we usually have about 4 to 5 deckhands and a mate on each watch. And each deckhand is responsible of half an hour rotations on the helm, so steering the ship. And so that just keeps going. So 4 hours on, 8 hours off, 24/7. And while we're in port, it's also very different. We have usually day sails that we do. So in the morning, we usually have a 3-hour sail, and in the afternoon, a 3-hour sail, and then sometimes in the evening, a 3-hour sail. And each time, it's all hands when we do day sails, so everyone is working. And then throughout the evening, we have to have one person on watch at all times. So we still continue with the scheduling. So one person from each watch will take 4 hours. So it's usually 8 to 12. One person will take care of the ship, 12 to 4, and then 4 to 8, and then we start our day again. So sometimes it can be very tiring if you start at 4 o'clock and then you have a full day's work until 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock the next day. So it can be very tiring. Yeah.
On salts, they do, you have your watches, there's 3 watches, and you do a 3-day rotation. So one day you'll have breakfast cleanup. So you will wake up at 6, you will scrub the deck, you'll do all the polishing of the brass, and you'll be up from 6 till 8. Breakfast you get at 8 o'clock, and then you are responsible for all the cleanup, and then you're off until right before dinner, so about 6 o'clock. And then that rotates 4 hours on, 8 hours off. And yeah, then between that, it's all free time. You get to just hang out on deck, go aloft. Sometimes they take one of the lines and they hang it off the deck, and we set up the bosun's chair, and we have that hanging off the side, and then we're dragging people in the chair in the water, and we do a lot of play like that and set up rope swings, and yeah.
So basically, you're always busy. There's always something to do.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other questions? So we have a question from Brent later for everyone. Do you have any impression of how the culture is on board around LGBTQ+, especially trans crew, particularly on the Bluenose II?
I can't really speak a whole lot to that because I honestly haven't experienced that a whole lot. I know we had one person last year that is currently trying to transition, and everybody has been super welcoming, and it hasn't been an issue for anyone. So it was very nonchalant, I guess. It was accepted, and it wasn't really talked about a whole lot because that was just how it was. We were all very supportive, obviously. So yeah, that everyone's been accepted. We've had a lot of people that are gay, and that's also not a problem on board. No one has ever spoken up about it being a problem for them. So it's a very inclusive environment that I've experienced over these past 2 years on board, and I hope to keep it that way.
I'm mindful of the time, so it's 4:50, but I have another question for you guys. What skills would you say you've gained from tall ship sailing that has impacted your daily life now? Like, so for Chloe, you were telling us you're a substitute teacher. What are the skills you gained on the Bluenose II that have really helped you in other aspects of your life?
Yeah, I think the skills I've learned on the Bluenose, like hard and soft skills. So soft skills meaning like talking to people, communication. That is extremely important on tall ships or in any kind of ships in the marine industry, because you have to be able to communicate with the people around you. And if you do have a problem with someone doing something, to be able to communicate with them and be able to have respect for one another in order to talk about the problem at hand, or maybe you're struggling with something and you have a very supportive community around you. So communicating that to your crewmates, I think is extremely important. So I think I've gained a lot of skills in communication and confidence in the way I talk, as well as hard skills being like tying knots and more physical labor work. I think a lot of those skills, obviously sailing, but like woodwork, like sanding and burnishing, are skills that I never thought I would acquire. But now I'm definitely more confident in my home DIYs and things like that. So those kind of skills are very also awesome to have as well.
I think empathy is a big one for me. Working on the ships and living with 40 to 80 people at a time, like, it's hard. And living on the ship and working on the ship, it's hard. You are exhausted. You're pushed to your limits almost every day. Whether it's just being around people needing personal space, there isn't a lot of personal space. And sometimes, like, you just need your space. So just kind of having empathy for people and learning how to communicate and just figuring it out. That's really important living on the boats, because if you're not all happy living together, there was a couple times on Class Afloat that we were not a team. We were terrible. It was all just going downhill, and we all have rough patches, and that's fine. But just learning how to empathize with people and understand where they're coming from, and to take a step back and say, okay, like, you need your space, I need my space. Like, we're good, but just kind of bring down the situations is important.
To say what Letitia said, like, dealing with conflict was like one big skill that I acquired on Class Afloat. We had a couple of big conflicts, like during within the students, especially at the beginning of the year, regarding language, I believe it was. And yeah, just learn how to deal with that, and like try to see everybody's point of view, try to make the message clear to everybody. And yeah, one of the more important skills for me was to be able to not be as shy, be more confident in myself, and like be able to grow into more of a leader. Before Class Afloat, I was a very, very shy individual. Like, I wouldn't pick up the phone if it rang in my house. Like, I didn't want to do that. And joining Class Afloat and meeting like 60 to 70 like new strangers that you're going to spend 9 months of your life with, and just be able to grow more into yourself and learn who you are and how you react to like different situations was a big part of it for me. And also like learning different knots, learning how to sail a ship, learning the star constellations was like really fun. And yeah, I'll have those knowledge for always.
Awesome. Unless anybody has any more questions, I think we can begin to wrap up. So I just want to thank Letitia, Chloe, and Eloise for taking time out on their Sunday to speak to all of you and to all of us. I think you've hopefully inspired a lot of people to pursue tallship training. I'm even maybe considering it. And yeah, I think it's been a really great conversation to learn more about sail training, what it's like in Canada.